So again, I want to thank you all for inviting me here. Um, I have been a member of the California Condor Wild and Free since 2008. I've also been a volunteer with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. And nest monitoring is really an interesting kind of a challenging occupation. You have to hike out to where the nests are in the wild. Sometimes it's a 2-mile hike, and you bring a spotting scope and you watch the birds in the egg stage to make sure the egg is being incubated. And once the chick is hatched, to make sure that the chick is healthy, doesn't, and it's being fed by the parent birds and that they're frequenting the nest. So that was actually a wonderful opportunity that I've had over the years. And the Friends group, we support we're a nonprofit, all volunteer organization, and we support the wildlife refuges that are the home to the endangered California condor and their historic nesting grounds. And again, these are our Instagram and Facebook and YouTube accounts, Friends of Condors. And we are part of the Condor Recovery Program. We are a partner along with these other wonderful people who, without their help, we wouldn't have condors in the wild again. There are people that support the captive breeding program, our release sites, research, education, and outreach programs. So I'm going to start with a few facts. California condors don't mate until they're 5 or 6 years old, and the breeding pair has 1 chick per nesting attempt. They generally will raise that chick, and because of the length of the time the chick is with them, and they only lay 1 egg every 2 years. They nest in caves and tree hollows, cavities, and they have an incredible wingspan, 9.5 feet. They love to soar. They have been seen up to 15,000 feet soaring. They can travel over 150 miles in a single day, and they reach speeds of 55 miles per hour. And they do a critical purpose for us. They are nature's cleanup crew. They are scavengers. They only eat carrion. Here are some cavities. The left one is from the Hopper Mountain area to cave, and you can see that the egg is on the ground. They do not make nests from twigs like other raptors do. And they will also, in the Northern California, use redwood tree cavities as nests. This is a single flight made by California Condor 978. And all our birds, well, not all of them, but we do have stealth birds. But many of our birds have GPS units and radio telemetry trackers. This one had a GPS unit, so every 15 minutes or so, it communicates with a satellite so we can see where that bird has been. And during the course of a day, it traveled over 163 miles. This bird, at the time when it made this flight, was 4 years old, and it traveled down Hopper Mountain, is in Fillmore, up 126 all the way to Carpinteria near Santa Barbara, all the way up the highway to Bitter Creek area, up 166. It really traveled around that day. It made a couple stops, but the entire loop it made was 163 miles. And it's critical that we do have these trackers on our birds. If something happens to a bird, we want to be able to locate it. And unfortunately, if they die, we do want to do a necropsy on it to find out what it died of. And also during mating season, we want to find out where they're nesting. So what's on the condor menu today? Condors along the California coast, we do have a flock in Central California, but we do have birds from the Southern California flock that will fly up and visit them in Big Sur area. And condors there will feast on whales, as they are in this photo here, as well as sea lions, dolphins, and seals. Inland, they'll eat anything from elk, horse, cattle, sheep, deer, wild pigs, rabbits, squirrels, and even kangaroo rats. So I guess if it's dead, they'll eat it. Some people are afraid of California condors. They think that they can kill animals like hawks and eagles do and, grab a pet and fly off. They don't have talons like eagles and hawks. Their foot is more like a turkey foot. They use it sometimes to hold down food while they're eating, and they might try to drag something away from a turkey vulture if they're part of the cleaning crew, but they can't pick up anything with those feet. Some more facts about Gymnogyps californianus. They stand almost 4 feet tall, 4.5 feet tall, and their wingspan can be 9 to 9.5 feet. Their weight is almost up to 25 pounds. The males are a little bigger than the females, and their lifespan is thought to be more than 60 years. Currently, the California condor is the largest land bird in North America. We do have a water bird. The brown pelican has a 9.5 wingspan. The oldest bird in the flock right now, he's actually in the LA Zoo as a breeder. He's Topa Topa. He's 57 years old. And the oldest bird in the wild is AC4, and he's 43. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the history of the California condor, and then we'll talk about the Condor Recovery Program. Condors have believed to have been here since the Pleistocene era, 40,000 years ago, and their range extended across North America into Mexico. Fossils have been found in New York and Philadelphia, as well as throughout the Western United States. New York and Florida. Some people believe some of the fossils in the Florida area were indigenous tribes that exchanged things, but it's possible that they actually flew all the way to the East Coast. It's much more prevalent to find fossils in the Western area. And if anybody's ever been to the La Brea tar pits in Los Angeles, they have condors skeletons hanging from the ceilings. So you can see in this map, all the black dots are sites where they found fossils. So during the Holocene extinction in 10,000 years ago, most of the condor range went to the Western United States. One of the earliest recorded encounters by a naturalist was when Lewis and Clark collected a condor specimen near the Columbia River Gorge in 1806. The sketch to the lower left here is from their journal. And the first formal study of wild condors was likely a pair of condors observed by William Finley, which is pictured on the bottom right. This is from 1906, when he recorded observations of a nest in the San Gabriel Mountains, which is in northern Los Angeles County. In the 1900s, the condors existed only in California, and their numbers were diminishing. They became more rare, and by the mid-20th century, the estimated range of the California condor was restricted to this wishbone shape. Why? Well, condors were shot out of curiosity, and unfortunately, they still are. The Ventura Wildlife Society, with the support of the Fish and Wildlife Service, is determined to ensure that acts of poaching are not tolerated. Taking, shooting, injuring, or killing a condor is unlawful, and it has a maximum penalty of 1 year in jail and a $100,000 fine per the Endangered Species Act. They still have not found the person who shot a condor in July of 2022. Early encounters with condors were generally seen as an opportunity to collect specimens, both birds and their eggs. The large size of their eggs made them prized specimens for egg collectors. This egg is from the Santa Barbara Natural History Museum collection. It was collected in San Antonio Creek, Santa Barbara County in 18. And the Western Foundation of Vertebrate Zoology in Camarillo has a drawer full of California condor skins that were collected in the early 1900s. That is an amazing museum if you've never visited it. A collection of eggs and birds and nests are amazing. The birds were captured for pets and display in zoos. In fact, Finley, who did the first study on the condor, had a pet condor. And millions of acres of their habitat were destroyed by development. Because of all these pressures, diseases, and poisonings, the condor population couldn't sustain itself, and there weren't enough surviving chicks to compensate for their deaths. In 1982, there were only 22 birds known to exist. Efforts were made to bring all of them into captivity, and the last wild condor was trapped near the four corners of San Luis Obispo, Santa Barbara, Ventura, and Kern counties. On Easter Sunday, 1987, AC9, a male was put into the LA Zoo breeding program. In 1987, California condors were then extinct in the wild. The California Condor Recovery Program was implemented in 1975 in an attempt to save the species. They had 5 main tenets: to establish a captive breeding program, to reintroduce California condors once they were bred and there were enough population to start releasing them, to minimize mortality factors in the natural environment, to maintain habitat for condor recovery, and then to implement condor information and education programs like this one today. So in 1988, this is AC4, his Condor 20. I do not know his mate. In 1988, he was the first pair of wild trap birds that produced an egg in captivity. They were in the LA Zoo. This began the successful program. We now have 5 captive breeding programs, one in Los Angeles Zoo, another in San Diego Safari Park, in World Center for Birds of Prey in Idaho, in the Oregon Zoo, and in the Chapultepec Zoo in Baja, Mexico. In order to increase the population, they started doing double clutching. And this is when the first egg is taken away from the condor pair and put into an incubator. And the female condor would then lay a second egg during the mating season. Who took care of the first one? Well, they came up with these puppets, and they were used to feed the incubated chick once it was hatched, and it was to stop imprinting on human beings. So they wanted to minimize human contact. At this time, they were able to get 2 chicks from every mated pair, which increased the population faster. They still do double clutching now, but they don't feed with puppets. They found out since the breeding pair don't have to forage for food, they're fed in the zoo, they can have the parents raise 2 chicks, or they can have each parent raise 1 chick if they have 2 chicks from double clutching. So in 1992, they started releasing birds in the wild, and the first place was Hopper Mountain National Wildlife Refuge. In 1996, the Peregrine Fund supports the Arizona flock. The Arizona flock is now moving into Utah. The Ventana Wildlife Society started supporting the central flock in 1997. In 2002, the Chapultepec Zoo and the Mexican government started releasing birds in Baja, Mexico. Pinnacles National Park, former national monument, started releasing birds in 2003, and they're also supported by the Ventana Wildlife Society. And our latest release site is the Yurok tribe in Northern California near the border of Oregon. So we just don't release a bird right away from the zoo. They are put into a flight pen to get accustomed to the area. This is the flight pen in Bitter Creek National Wildlife Refuge, which is in almost in Kern County, near Maricopa, Ventacopa, or Carrizo Plains area. So one of these birds is not like the other. We put a mentor bird in with the juveniles. You can see that that bird has a pink head. Condors will have a black head for 3 years, and then they'll start getting pink. And when they're adults, 5, 6 years old, they'll have a really bright pink orangey head. The mentor bird is in there to help with the other condors to learn how to feed, get used to the area and the environment. And these birds are very social. So even though we have one bird inside, all the birds in the area know that there's new kids on the block, and they'll come and visit, and they'll be on the top of the flight pen to check out the new kids. These birds are a year to a year and a half old when they are released. They will be in the flight pen for a couple of weeks, maybe 3 weeks or so, to get used to the area and the environment. And then they'll also be checked to make sure that they're healthy and that transporting them hasn't caused any problems, because we don't want to release any birds that don't look well. So another tenet is to minimize mortality. This is a chart over 40 years studying the birds. There's a necropsy center in Oregon that does all the necropsies for California condors. So every bird that we've been able to find gets sent to them to determine the cause and to see if there's anything we can do about what's causing these mortalities. So the leading cause is lead poisoning. I'm hoping that this is coming down now because AB 711 was passed in California, which requires anyone taking an animal to use non-lead bullets. But we've also lost birds from other things recently. The Dolan fire in Big Sur on August 18th, 2020, killed 12 birds from the Central Coast Block. In 2023, I'm sure you've heard 21 California condors and the Arizona-Utah flock succumbed to the avian flu. The good thing in California, no birds yet have tested positive for H-Pi, but we'll talk a little bit more about that. You can also see here that birds have died of power line collisions. We have tried to prevent that. I'll show you another photo later where there is a mock power pole in the flight pen, and if the birds land on it, they get a slight shock, so they learn not to do that. Their wings are so big that they can touch both wires, and they can ground themselves and they can die. So that's really gone down over the years. We don't see that as often now because this is a study from 40 years. Predation is also a big cause of death. Ravens will enter cavities and eat the eggs. And then when the fledging happens, if the birds don't realize that they should be roosting and they're found on the ground, We've had bobcats and mountain lions and bears predate condors. So how do birds get lead poisoning? It's because hunters have killed an animal with a lead bullet and left a gut pile, or maybe the deer got away and died later on and was feasted on by scavenging animals. So hawks, eagles, coyotes, turkey vultures, and condors all succumb from lead poisoning from scavenging these animals that were killed with lead bullets. You can see from the insert here that a copper bullet, when it hits an animal bone, it just mushrooms, as opposed to a lead bullet that just fragments into 100 pieces. So I did some research today. This is all the HPI detections in the United States reported to the Wildlife Disease Program of all wild birds. This doesn't count domesticated, birds. These are all wild birds that were reported. This is from November 14th. At that time, it lists 406 birds in California. And of those birds, 36 of them are turkey vultures, which is very upsetting to me because that means the same flocks of birds hang out together when they're scavenging. Condors have really good eyesight, but they don't have a good sense of smell. Turkey vultures find food, and then condors see them, and they'll be in a kettle, flying around, or they'll be on the ground, and the condors see them, and they'll move in and share the feast. So it's possible that turkey vultures and condors are feasting on the same food, and HPI is very easily spread. It's spread through feces, so if the birds are around each other, landing on the same trees in the same area, they could easily spread the virus to each other. So so far we have 8 birds in the Yurok tribe in Northern California. They've all been tested. They were all trapped and tested. Nobody had HPI. The central flock and the Southern California flock are trapping birds now to check on their health. We do this often to make sure that they're okay, and I'll show you that in a second. During that workup, they will be tested for HPI, and we have not found one in California yet. I do not know about the Mexican flock. There was an annual meeting in Oakland Zoo a couple months ago that I was able to attend, and I met somebody from Mexico there. The USDA has approved the HPI vaccine for our California condor flock and the other wild condors after sufficient testing. But the USDA has not made an agreement with the Mexican government, so I don't know what's going to happen to those birds. There was a clinical trial in North Carolina with black vultures. They didn't show any problems with the vaccine, and they showed titers for antibodies. So we took it the next step, and captive condors have been vaccinated. The trial just completed in October. There were 2 groups during the clinical trials. The first group was given 0.5 milliliter in 2 doses, separated by 3 weeks. And group 2 was given only a full dose in one time. Blood work was analyzed. They did find antibodies, and they're still working on a course treatment for wild birds. But the decision has been made for any bird in captivity that is going to be released, they will be vaccinated. So right now, 3 birds were given to the Northern California flock, for example. They have been vaccinated. We have 11 birds that were given to the Southern California flock. 3 of them have gotten their second vaccination and they have been released. We still have 8 birds that haven't been released yet, but they will be vaccinated. The course of treatment for the wild birds is still being discussed. If they're going to use 2 vaccinations, that means they have to house the birds for a 3-week period, and that's going to be difficult. So they're still discussing about how they're going to do that. So to try to prevent problems, we do capture them and check on their health. They used to get blood tests for lead poisoning. Now they're getting blood tests for HPI to confirm they don't have it. They also, we want to keep track of them. We want to know where they are. So we have GPS on their wing tags, and we have, I'm sorry, is there a question?
No, there were a couple of new guests and had muted. I've muted them now. You can keep going.
Okay, thank you. So the birds that we trap, we want to make sure that they have a telemetry unit, a radio telemetry unit, and a GPS. Somehow we can track them. We generally trap birds in July and in October. You can see someone here trying to capture a bird with a net. They'll bring it inside and check all the tags on it. If it is a stealth bird, if it's lost its tag and its GPS unit, they'll get a new tag and a new telemetry unit. And by the way, there's no way to tell the difference between a male and female bird unless you see it lay an egg. So they do blood work in order to determine a stealth bird if it's a male or female and which one it is by its genetics. And any birds like in Arizona where they don't generally enter nests to check on them because it's difficult in the Grand Canyon area. Once they trap a bird that's a chick that's been fledged, they'll have to take blood work to determine if it's a male or female. And generally it's hanging out with its parents, but they'll do genetics to figure out which are the parent birds to confirm it. So how do they capture them? There is a trapdoor, as you can see in the bottom left there. There is somebody behind that window looking out. They'll put food out for the bird, generally rabbits or a calf, and the condors will come in, and once they're in the door, they'll close the trap door. I have had the opportunity to hold a condor like this for a workup, and they are very strong birds. You have to be very careful with that beak. They're 25 pounds of muscle. So they're holding the bird. There's 2 people. You can see one person holding their feet, and the other person's holding the bird and the beak. They will check the wing to make sure everything looks healthy, that they have the wing tag is secure. Those wing tags are, it's like a piercing in their wing, like you would pierce an ear. And it's secured with a bolt, and then attached to it is a solar battery powered GPS device. When they are in captivity, it's possible if they molt feathers, or a feather could be taken to monitor lead exposure. Dr. Mara Finkelstein did a wonderful study on feathers and how, because they molt every 6 months, it takes 6 months for them to grow out. You can see the lead exposure by looking at different parts of the feather as it grows out. And then they've been able to prove that condors have multiple exposures to lead exposure, and they will be exposed, they'll get better. They'll be exposed again and they get better. So they can have, over a course of 6 months for that feather, they can show that they've ingested lead multiple times. So I was part of the nest guarding program, and we would monitor nests and help and assist when people were actually doing nest entries as they're rappelling down a cliff. A little more to the left, the cave is 20 feet below you, and a little more to the left. They do a nest entry to determine if the egg is fertile. They'll candle it to see if it's fertile, and then if on 120 days, they'll check again on the chick before it fledges, and they'll put its wing tag on, and they'll take a blood sample to determine its sex. While they're inside the nest, they'll also take a look around. The chick stage is almost 2 months. It's about 57 days. Both birds will incubate the egg. And it takes 6 months to fledge. Again, both parents share the responsibility to brood and feed the chick. Parents generally swap out that responsibility. One bird will stay and protect the chick while the other forages for food. The bird searching for food may be gone for 2 to 3 days. This is a nice healthy chick at 120 days. That bulge there that looks like a belly, it's their crop. It's where food is stored before it's digested. And as a nest monitor, we would have to report if we saw the crop and what size it was. This is a size 3. It's as big as it gets. If they've only eaten a little bit, you'll just see it looks like a 1. You can see the skin just poking out. But this one has been well fed, pretty happy there. When they enter that nest, besides checking on the health of the bird, they're going to look for microtrash. To calm the bird down, they put a sock on it. They could also give it some oxygen. They can weigh it. They'll check to make sure its wings don't have any problems, that the legs are good, no broken bones. They'll sift for microtrash. Microtrash is fed to the chicks by the parents, and we believe it's because they grow from a size of a little chicken maybe to a full 9.5-foot wingspan in 6 months. So they need calcium, and feeding them shells, feeding them bones is a good thing. They can get calcium. And there are things in the environment that maybe the birds think are calcium and they're not. So this is a X-ray of a chick and things that they found inside it. If the crop is compacted with microtrash, the birds will no longer be able to eat. It has happened in the past where there was a nest entry done. The bird was taken to the LA Zoo, and then surgery was done to remove the compacted trash in its crop, and then return the next day to the nest. During that time, my friend Molly had to stay in the nest because they didn't want the parent birds to come into the nest and discover the chick was gone. So Molly spent the night in a condor cave. I don't think there are many people that can say that. She prevented the birds from coming in to see that there was nothing there. I'm not sure how well she slept, if she did at all. But they stayed around, and the next day when the bird was in there, they entered the nest and took care of it. This is another picture of some microtrash that was found, and you could see why it kind of looks like bones, right? I mean, these are pieces of glass, pottery, bottle caps, but you can understand how they could be confused. This is less of a problem than it used to be, but they still do check the nest cavities for it, and if they find any, they remove it. So one of the tenets, again, is to maintain condor habitat. The United States Forest Service established the Sespe Condor Sanctuary in 1947. The Hopper Mountain National Wildlife Refuge was established in 1974. And in this map, you can see the dots are from GPS pings where the birds were hanging out. So Hopper Mountain is in Fillmore, which is just north of Oxnard there. And towards the left area, more towards Santa Maria, is Bitter Creek. So the birds in the Southern California flock will definitely fly back and forth between Bitter Creek and Hopper Mountain, but they can also go up to the southern, the central flock, which is around Big Sur, Monterey Bay. And we have had in the past a Romeo and Juliet relationship. So it is possible. A Southern California flock female came down and stayed for several years with a male bird, and they did have I think 2 successful nesting attempts. So they had 2 chicks. So the recovery plan goal is to have at least 2 separate populations with 150 birds and in each, and 15 breeding pairs. We have this pretty much now in California. We have almost 200 birds if we count all the birds in California. And we do have 15 breeding pairs, but the nesting attempts aren't always successful. We have over 100 birds in Arizona, but we don't have 15 breeding pairs there. So this is our goal. We're getting closer to it. On this map, you can see the release sites. You can see why do we have more flocks? Because we don't want to keep all our eggs in one basket, as the saying goes. We want to give a chance for the birds to survive. The avian flu broke out in Arizona, but it has not happened in Mexico or California. So we're trying to protect the flocks by keeping them separated. People often ask, where's a good place to view California condors? Pinnacles National Park is a great place to see them. Every time I've gone there and hiked, I always see them flying around there, especially between the spring and the fall. Bitter Creek National Wildlife Refuge, the Friends group will, the first and third Saturdays, will set up a booth, and we'll have a spotting scope, and people will be there to try to help you find condors and give you some education about the condors. And generally, we have birds in the flight pen, and there is nests near Bitter Creek. This year there were 2 nests very nearby. So we often had birds flying around. You could see them right along the highway. Another good place is the Grand Canyon. I've seen them there as well. But locally, I would say along Big Sur, Route 1, the National Monument, Pinnacles National Park, and Bitter Creek are good places to go. The Friends group also has tours. Our tours are wrapping up for the year because it's the rainy season now and we have dirt roads. It's difficult to pass on those dirt roads in the winter, but they'll start up again in the spring. So this is an interesting graph. It shows the declining population of the California condors. You can see in 1982, there were only 22 alive. And then there was a period when they were all in captivity until 1992, when they started being released again. So the wild population is that blue striped. So there's a period of 5 years where there were no birds. They were wild, they were extinct in the wild. So the purple ones are in the breeding program. They started being released again in 1992. And the yellow is my favorite. Those are the wild fledged birds. Those that were born in the wild, in wild nests. So we do a released report of the condor population every December. This is from December 2022. At that time, we had 561 birds. It's more now because we've had, even though we've had deaths, we've had more birds being released from the breeding program. We've had more birds, more births in the wild and more births in the breeding program. So I'm not sure it's up to 600. I would say it's probably at least 580, but my fingers are crossed that even though we've lost birds in 19, I think we're gonna get close to 600 soon. You can tell that most of our birds are still in the wild, and at that point in time, we had 347 in the wild, as opposed to 214 in the 5 captive breeding programs. Close to 200 here in California, which is our goal is to have at least 150 in the state, and we've got more than that. Baja Mexico has 40. Arizona, they're probably around 100 now. I don't know how many they've had in the current breeding. They're going to be releasing birds. So this is a map of all the current areas where we were talking about the expansion of the birds. The red is the condor current range. And we do have a Condor Preservation Act, which is in a bigger area that's being reserved for them. We expect the birds that are being released now, I don't think this has the birds for Northern California, but we expect as that population gets bigger, they're going to expand their range. We have not seen birds fly to San Diego from the Southern California flock, but we have had birds from Baja Mexico come close to the border. So they might come closer up as that population expands. The Arizona flock has reached Utah. They get tired, I guess, of cattle, and they like the sheep in Utah. So I often have people say, well, what can I do to help? I tell everyone, you know, when you're in the wild in a place where there are wild animals, please leave no trace. Follow that principle. If you're bringing things into the wild, make sure you leave it with it. And if you can, bring an extra bag and take out if somebody's left something there that shouldn't be there. We ask people, please don't feed or approach a condor, especially now if you see one that's sick. Avian flu has cross species. It is possible for a human being to get them. As the Fish and Wildlife Service is handling birds, they are wearing masks, and some places they're actually wearing a full suit to protect themselves because they don't want to get avian flu. But if you do see one in the Southern California area, please report it at Hopper Mountain at fws.gov. Again, it's the law, AB 711, passed several years ago, 2019. Farmers, ranchers, people who have to put down an animal are required to use non-lead. Because if an animal is sick and they put down a horse, for example, there are carrion feeders that are going to ingest that lead if they use lead. And we are always looking for volunteers. So if you are interested in volunteering and helping out, and you're going to be in the area, we have different projects that we work on. We do work days at the refuges. Our refuges are closed to the public because they are protecting a critically endangered species. But as a volunteer on a work day, you can get access to the refuge and very possibly see a condor. We do different projects. It could be trail maintenance. It could be taking down old fences. It could be capping poles, building bird blind. The most recent project is building nests for bluebirds, but nesting boxes. And then we started the condor monitoring program again. If you like to go out in the wild and sit for a while and watch a nest, that's really an incredible job to watch the parent birds take care of the chick. We also do outreach at educational booths. And so we talk to people like I am today with you about the condor and to inform them about how they can help out as well. We do the viewing booth at Bitter Creek in the summer between June and September. And we're always looking for people to come visit, and maybe you'd be interested in helping out. And then we do tours open to the public. If that's something that your Audubon group is interested in, that's we could make an arrangement to, if you wanted to bring a group from the Audubon group to do a tour either in Hopper Mountain or Bitter Creek. That's something that can be arranged. And then we do presentations like this one. Always looking for people to help me. And this is the spiel. You know, we're lucky we haven't found H-Pi in California. I'm hoping that that is still the case. We do know that it generally has in the past been associated with the migration of the birds, but this new strain is much more serious than the ones in the past. So we're hoping that we're going to get all our birds vaccinated soon, and we really appreciate your donation to help us with that. Donations raised will support the vaccination program, from capturing the condors, administering the vaccine rounds, monitoring their health, and then releasing them back into the wild. And this is Dolly. She is our ambassador bird, our ambassador condor. She lives at the LA Zoo. She was born in the wild, but unfortunately she was brought to the LA Zoo in 2011 with a bad wing injury, and it was determined that her wing wouldn't heal enough for her to return to the wild. So she is now being taken care of at the LA Zoo and taken out to events from time to time. I don't think with the avian flu now they're letting her out, but I have seen her in Ojai. In 2014, she came out and visited. So on that, I am finished with my presentation. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Well, thanks very much, Debbie. I really enjoyed the talk, and I'm not seeing anybody's having submitted questions to chat, which I find a great opportunity because I'm always full of questions. And I have kind of a three-part question for you. It has to do with the nesting. So I've put up an awful lot of nesting boxes for bluebirds. And they aren't always occupied by bluebirds. There are other birds that come along, and I've been.
Oh yeah.
What?
Yeah, sparrows.
So, well, no sparrows.
Oh, good.
Typically, we get either white-breasted nuthatches or wrens. And I've been very struck by how classic, how really characteristic each nest is to the bird. It's very obviously genetically determined what they do. And in the same type of box, a wren will will build an absolutely completely different nest than what a bluebird will put in. And so I was watching your bird behind you rearrange the dirt. And I thought, well, do they do any nest preparation? Is there kind of, they want a certain amount of gravel, or they're trying to get gravel out of the way? Is there any kind of grooming that they do on that ground? That's the first of three.
Right. So they will, it could be like a shallow bowl so that the egg stays there and it doesn't roll around too much. But what you see in that video is actually the bird is rolling the egg.
Right.
And it's required like to move it around a little bit to get the proteins moving in there. It's actually something good for the egg. But they could, like, there could be a small divot, or like a little bowl in the sand that they make, but that's it. They don't really pile any rocks or anything around it. No.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you of course mentioned bluebird nesting boxes and a project to put them up. I'm wondering, one, does that relate to condors, or what is the drive behind that?
I mean, it's a wildlife refuge. So besides supporting the California condor, we also support the wildlife that exists on the refuge. So so we built bird blinds, and then we built a storage for a refrigerator unit so that we could put, carcasses like calves, stillborn calves in, so that we could feed the birds.
Right.
So there's a lot of projects on the refuge that are specifically for the condors, but there are other animals there too. So there are bobcats and mountain lions. We have to build fencing around the flight pens to keep those animals out, and walk the fences to make sure that there's nothing's digging underneath them to allow an animal to get in. Trying to think of what other projects there are. I mean, the trail maintenance is because a lot of the nests you have to hike a mile or two to get to them, and they'll fill in really fast during the rainy season. But yeah, there are other animals on the refuge, so that hence if we have a lot of poles out there, we want to cap them because we don't want any birds flying in the poles. Okay. It's just to help the other wildlife out. And there's also, like, native plants, right? I mean, we want to make sure that if there are times that there are, a wild invasive species in an area like the ones with the thorns, I forget, the goat heads, we have work parties that go and pull goat heads. We don't want them around the flight pen. We don't want them to affect the birds. And honestly, the thorns on them, I mean, the Fish and Wildlife tires can get flat. So we're helping the tires as well as the birds.
Well, I've built an awful lot of bluebird nesting boxes, so maybe you and I can talk later about what your specific needs are. I see that there are now a bunch of questions in chat, and Marianne has been collating them, I think. So, Marianne, do you want to unmute yourself and talk about what questions have arisen? I guess not. Or maybe she can't unmute herself. Okay. So let me go to, well, let me break it out. Let me just check something here. Okay, so you need to get in and, okay. So maybe we have somebody who wants to unmute themselves and come online while Marianne looks up the questions there.
I'll go ahead. I have I've had terrific success seeing wild condors in sometimes large numbers um, west of the Bitter Creek Wildlife Refuge along Hudson Ranch Road, and I wanted to recommend that. Just driving that road, I would say at least half the time I drive that road, I see condors. And one time we saw 10 condors soaring overhead, which it's got to be a good chunk of the wild California population. Also, wind wolves is a good place to see condors. We had them flying like 15 feet over our head. It was very impressive. So it is. You don't have to go as far as Pinnacles. you can see them here.
Okay, so we have quite a few comments here, and comments about seeing them at Hudson Ranch Road near Bitter Creek and at Wind Wolves. I don't know where Wind Wolves is.
66 between 33 and 5.
Okay.
They have totally elk there. It's a really beautiful place. They have free campgrounds. It's really nice.
Great. Somebody, Elizabeth, says that she was unsure if tours are over until spring or will be over soon. Are they up and
Yeah,
running?
they're going to be. I think that there might be. There was one last week. There might be one more in December if it doesn't get rained out, and then they'll be closed for the winter, and then they'll start again in the spring.
Okay, so that would be if somebody like Pat was interested in touring someone, probably contacting you guys to find out about when that next tour is going to be.
Sure, like you could go to our website and there sign up for our mailing list, and you can say that you're interested in a tour.
Are condors fed supplemental food to keep them healthy?
Yes. During the nesting season, we have ranchers in the area that provide the Fish and Wildlife Service with stillborn calves, and they also have rabbits. I don't know where they get the rabbits from, but they will feed put food out in as central flock as well as in the Southern California flock during the nesting season, and also to trap the birds.
Great. Okay, I think that is pretty much the main body of questions. Just lots of compliments about the excellence of the presentation.
Why, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. You want to close up, Kathy or Joanne?
Well, I just want to say real quick, thank you so much, Debbie. This was a very informative. You know your stuff really well, and I appreciate how much knowledge you have and how you were able to let us know about everything. And I will contact someone about maybe some of us coming and being able to do a tour maybe in the spring.
Yeah, I think that would be a great idea. And honestly, you're right that in the springtime, like the Carrizo Plains and the wildflowers, if you want to, take a little tour down Hudson Ranch, and it's just beautiful, and you probably will see a condor.
Yes, thank you so much. That was excellent, very informative, a subject that all of us native Californians should feel very strongly about. It's one of our birds. So thank you all. And we do not have, correct me if I'm wrong, Joanne, I don't think we have a program in December.
No, January there'll be a program, and Richard knows about the speaker, I believe.
Yeah, I was going to say, we're very enthusiastic to hear your talk, particularly about the vaccination program, which is what we were hoping to support, and we're interested in hearing more details of the results on that. The program in January is something where we are supporting the Southern Sierra Research Station, who is taking care of a globally important bird area at the Kern River Preserve. And we donated funds to help them establish which parts of that reserve are most important to what birds. And so we're going to have them report back to us in January on the results of that study. So looking forward to that one as well, and hope to see you there.
All right. Thank you, Richard. And thank you again, Debbie. And we will keep in touch.
Okay.